Morning everyone. So I've been away for a few days. I've been out in a field selling food at a festival, small family festival, lots of fun and lots of, peace and love and acceptance and stuff like that. So in the spirit of that, of openness and universal accord, I thought I would revisit a topic that's quite dear to my heart and I'm sure really unites everyone in the chess world, which is our universal hatred of the French. I'm not talking, of course, about the nation, but the French defence. So, particularly, well, if you're an e4 player, you will see the French quite a lot. So, obviously, it starts with e4, and then black here is going to respond with e6. Now, e5 is the most common response. I'll show you what I've got this set to. So, 1600, 1800, we'll add in 2200 in there. Blitz and up. So e5, still the most common response at this level, 37%. The Sicilian is played 24%, and then the French 11%. That's one game in 9, so you're going to see the French a lot. And, not just because I'm interested in rugby, but I really do hate the French. Okay, so why does black do this? Well, black is doing this in order to support the move pawn to d5, then contesting the centre. Okay, and it tends to lead to quite positional games. That there are some lines that have a boring reputation, but we shall come across that. So what we're looking for is an approach that will suit the Vienna Gambit style of play. All right, you want to eliminate the f-pawn if you can, probably castle kingside, get your rook on f1, and attack black on the kingside. Okay, and black will very often castle kingside in the French defence. So. Second move in the French is pawn to d4. Your opponent offers you the centre. You should usually grab it with both hands. That's principled. And you might see some different moves here. I mean, d6 is played. This is the Pitt small centre defence. d5 is by far the most common. 75% of the time they'll just play d5, okay, which is the position that we're going to get to. You will see c5. French players will play c5 very often. They're itching to play c5, but you're talking single figures there, 5%, 4% for b6, d6, and so you pretty much expect this. Now, the reason that this has come about is a couple of things. We did a session with Craig, I think last week or the week before, in the advanced group in Chess Bootcamp Live, where he went over his approach to the French. He's got this very trappy line. And also Pete sent me a game that he played recently in the Rasa-Studier Gambit. Haven't been over that game in detail, so I won't look at it right now. What we're going to do is just casually going to look at like 6 lines against the French here. And we're going to start with the Rasa-Studier Gambit. And you'll see that there are similarities. So here, for example, obviously with white to play, this pawn setup here will be similar. You may recognise this because this is very much like the Black Mardima Gambit. Okay, so for example, that's my response to the Scandinavian. I play e4, d5, and then I'll play d4, offering up this pawn here, this guy. Okay, but so first we're going to look at the Rasa-Studier. Now, there are a few approaches, but what you do for the Rasa-Studier Gambit is you continue with knight to c3. And this is the same in with the line that Craig was talking about. So you play knight to c3. Now, the most common moves here are knight f6. Okay, you've got bishop b4 with a pin on the knight. And the third most common move is d takes e4. And of course, there's always c5. Always. If a French player hasn't played c5, you'll often see c5. So we're going to start by looking at the third option, which is de. And this can bring us into this is now the Rubinstein variation of the French apparently, which takes us into the Rasa-Studier Gambit, where you play f3. Very much in Black Mardima spirit, okay? And you're offering up a second pawn, but if they accept the second pawn, which they very often will do, so here this is 61% of the time, they'll accept, and now you recapture with your knight. So now we have 2 knights developed, 2 pieces. So we're a tempo up, but for the cost of a pawn, right? So this is a gambit spirit. You need to play this in the gambit spirit. You want to get developed quickly, get your king castled, and just go on the attack. So we're going to go over most common moves here. By a long way, knight to f6. Black wants to castle, So bishop d3, remember this move is very, very useful. And now we really, if you're a Vienna Gambit player, you'll already be comfortable with this kind of setup here. The knight defends your pawn here, you've got your bishop looking down h7, you're getting ready to castle quickly, get your rook straight onto the semi-open f-file, and we're going to throw everything but the kitchen sink at our opponent. Most common move, bishop e7, preparing to castle, we castle, they castle, and queen e1. Okay, Sicilian Grand Prix style. All right, queen e1, the idea again is that you're going to come, like in the Grand Prix, you'll come with queen out to h4. Okay, so we're recycling ideas, reduce, reuse, recycle. Okay, most common move by black is to develop the knight, perfectly normal there. And now queen h4, right? You've seen this before. Now there's two common moves here. We've got g6 here. g6 is a mistake here by black. Knight to b4, attacking the c2 pawn, is actually the best move, but that is defended by the bishop. Okay, you'll see g6 quite a lot, which is a mistake. And white wins 62% from here, right? And this is played 40% of the time. The second most common move is h6, played 27% of the time, and that's actually a blunder. So we'll look at both of these. So g6 is a mistake here. And what you do now is you come in with your bishop. So now we are fully developed. On move 10, we're hitting the rook. Rook moves out the way. What that means is now the king is the only defender of this guy. And in Gambit spirit, we want to just line up all of our stuff, go balls out at the opponent. Rook a to d1, lining up there. This is a discovered attack. They'll move the knight, it's most common move. Attacking the queen, just drop the queen back down to f2. And now, of course, because this rook has moved, now we're looking at the f2 pawn, so the f7 pawn. Right, and everything is starting to close in on black. Right, we're only +1 here, it's white. But after this move, which is it's the only move that's been seen, it's only got one game on the database here. Okay, so you could expect a bunch of things, but I mean, this makes sense. Black's now got 3 pieces looking down on here against only 2 defenders, right? But that was a blunder. So what you do now, pawn to g4, hitting the knight, and the knight actually only has 1 square to go to, because he can't go here or here, and it can't go there because the bishop's now in the way. He comes back, and we go in with our knight, and white is simply winning here. We've now got 2 attackers on here, right? It's defended only by the queen, and it's going to end in tears all very quickly. Literally everything is just hovering to inflict pain on black. So the point here, this is not an exhaustive kind of theory lesson in the Rasa-Studier Gambit. We just want to get a feel for it, really. So that's all my brain's good for today anyway. Okay, let's look at the h6 blunder. Okay, French defense. Okay, we play knight c3, and if they take the pawn, which is not uncommon, you offer the second pawn, and we go into this line. Okay, so this is designed, custom made for the Vienna lover, the Vienna Gambit lover. Knight comes out, bishop here, bishop there, and we all castle. Right, queen e1. They bring out their other knight, and queen h4 in Grand Prix style. Okay, now pawn to h6 makes perfect sense. You know, they're trying to defend this. Now, the thing is that h7 is defended by the knight, but black's getting worried about, your bishop coming out and removing the defender, and then they might be open to a checkmate. So h6 is kind of understandable. And what do you do here? Have a think if you wish. There is one killer move here for white. Now that this hook has been created, you've got an undeveloped bishop here, but a bishop can exert significant influence over the game without even moving. Right? That's one special thing about bishops, particularly when you have a pawn, an edge pawn that moves 1 square, because it becomes a target. So bishop takes h6, and if they take, right, which they pretty much, I mean, they don't have to. In fact, the computer here says that still knight to b4 attacking this pawn is far preferable to capturing, but most of the time they will capture, and it's going to end horribly because you take back with your queen. Your knight's going to come in here threatening mate. Let's just play through a few most typical moves in this line. Right, their knight comes in, you're uninterested, knight comes now threatening mate. And here they come to hit the queen. Obviously, queen can't go there. You just eliminate this knight with your bishop. They come out with a check. And we're just attacking literally everything. And now here, right, after knight f6, it's basically mate in 2. And they come in here, and that would be, you know, inside 20 moves, lovely, lovely checkmate, okay? That whole game has never been played. The point isn't to memorize the game. The point is to get a feeling for this. Now, what if they decline? So we're going to look at 4 lines now, just very briefly, you know, and just 1 line in each approach. So French defense, you bring your knight out to c3. Now the most common move here, like we said, is knight to f6, played 36% of the time. Knight to f6. Okay, and here we are now in the normal variation or classical variation, and we're going to continue with knight to e5. Okay, this is the line that Craig showed us. Now, the knight could come here. It does happen. He can't go there. He can't go there because of the queen. So it's, again, familiar kind of Vienna Gambit style ideas. The most common thing that you will see is knight back to d7, played 93% of the time. Obviously, if knight comes here, we'll have to look at that separately, but knight out to here. And now, this is what's interesting, because the move that Craig recommends is actually the it's not the most common move at all. We carry on with knight to f3 first, okay, and now you'll get c5 most of the time. And now this is interesting. So the most common move here that white plays, which is not bad, is d takes c5. You've got bishop to e3, which is kind of solid, but that favours black. Bishop b5 slightly favours black, and then this is the tricky move. Bishop to g5, this is what you have to remember. Bishop to g5, and there's a lot of ways that black can go very wrong from this position. The engine actually slightly favours black here, but we'll look at a couple of ideas here, okay? We'll look at this is very common, okay? So queen b6 is the most common line, and there's a bunch of traps in there. I've actually got a whole separate study on this, so that you can go through. But a very typical looking one would be, well, why don't you block the attack on the queen with the bishop, okay? So queen b6 is played 45% of the time, but this is played, you know, more than 1 in 3 times. Bishop to e7, so just quickly look at this. You eliminate the bishop and queen takes, and now knight to b5. And the knight's going to come here, or it's going to come here, and there ain't a whole lot that black can do about it. Okay, now, let's say they castle out of trouble. You go to c7, and this rook doesn't stand a chance. It can't move anywhere, right? Now, if they take this pawn, there's one thing you have to remember, very important. Don't do this. Don't grab the pawn back with your queen. Why not? Have a pause if you want to, and figure out what's wrong with queen takes d4, right? Recapturing your pawn. Okay, so the problem is if you take here, then black has the move knight c6, and that hits the queen and also frees up the b8 square for the rook to escape your knight. So what you have to do here is you have to take with your knight first, and white here has a meaningful advantage. There's lots more fun to be had in this whole line depending on what black does, but for today that's all we'll look at. Okay, let's look at another way that they can decline after you play knight c3. So French defense, you play knight c3. So we looked at knight to f6, in which case we kick, bring out the knight, bring out the bishop, right, fair enough. Second most common move is the Winawer with 28.5, and this is bishop out to b4 with the pin. So let's look at the line in that, okay? Pawn to a3, they take, you take back, okay? Now this pawn structure should be familiar to every Vienna player. This is what I like about this, okay? Most common move by black is to take this pawn. It's a free pawn, why not, okay? And again, we just offer another pawn. Here, black, take the pawn, okay? They take, recapture with the knight. And here, although, are we, what, 1 pawn down? I can't really tell. They've got 7, we've got 6. Yeah, we're a pawn down, but we are more developed. Okay, they'll bring out their knight because they want a castle. Again, bishop to d3. Right, this is all very, very easy stuff. And this is a way that if you're a Vienna player, right, you get into your comfort zone, right? Your French player is already out at sea. You don't know, this is not a French game now. This doesn't look like a French game. This looks like a Vienna, so happy days. They castle, we castle, get your rook on the semi-open file. And from here, white's winning 72% of the time, okay? b6 is actually the most common move by black, preparing to fianchetto this bishop. It makes a bunch of sense. And here we're going to play queen to e2. And white is now plus 2.6 already at this point. So I'll just play you through the rest of the line. They bring out their bishop. Knight to e5 is also a move. You know, it doesn't really matter which order you play these in. Okay, but everything's just, again, creeping up, ready just to pounce on that king. Okay, knight to e5 now. They bring out their knight. You pin that knight. If they kick you, okay, now we don't want to kind of, you know, blow our load at this point, right? We want to keep this pin. This pin is powerful, okay? And black has just conceded slightly by pushing this pawn in front of the king. So you just drop the bishop back. Drop the bishop back to h4, maintain the pin, okay? Now, clearly, they can't take here, because you'll recapture with a pawn, and then you've got a pawn attacking a pinned piece. So they would lose the knight. Okay, so let's say they move the queen out of the way, and white is just winning here. Just absolutely winning. You take the knight, they'll take with their knight, right? You take with a rook, sacking the exchange, and if they take back, it's all going to end in tears. So again, queen comes straight into g4 with check. Okay, now we threaten that pawn, king comes forwards, and you're just now maneuvering all of your pieces, right? And it's pretty much completely lost now from black's perspective. He's got this bishop, he's got half a job, and this rook hasn't even played any part in the game, and this queen is just too far out the way to help, and this poor king is going to find himself on a spike very soon. So that's a line against the Winawer direction. Let's look at a couple more. Okay, now what if they do this, the early c5? Okay, so from this point, yeah, like we've seen, d5, super common, 75%, second most common, it's only 5.7% of the time, but you might see this, the Franco-Sicilian. Okay, so, quick line here, push d5, takey, they push, right? Machine already favours white slightly, bishop to d3, right? You've seen this before. They develop their knight, and here they take the pawn. Now this is a trap. This is the point, okay? So they develop their knight, they're attacking this pawn, and you just develop your knight. And you go, oh no, my pawn, right? What is the next move here for white? Okay, it's plus 3.8. The reason is we've tricked this knight into grabbing what looked like a free pawn because we have bishop b5 check. Okay, with a discovered attack by the queen on the knight, black can block the check quite happily. Got 3 different ways to do it, right? But this knight can't do anything. So let's say they block the bishop, you trade off, you win yourself a knight, and you're very likely just to romp home and win the game. So that's just one little line there. And finally, we're going to look at b6. I think Levy promotes this, the e6 b6, right? And the key thing here is they are different coloured pawns. So you know, if you move like the same coloured pawns, you're just creating like a big weakness on the other colour complex. So okay, French defence, but now they play this b6 line. Just one idea here: bishop to d3, as before. They fianchetto, and here there's a few options, but I like this kind of f4 Grand Prix style idea, right? We've got our bishop lined up. They'll develop their knight. So they've got 2 attackers on here now. Queen e2. They push, knight comes in, blah-de-blah-de-blah, right? And this is quite a comfortable situation. White's slightly better. We trade off in the middle. Check and block castles. And some trading off in the middle. But white is now distinctly better we've got a closed centre. So this bishop here is pretty useless, right? And you've got a very, very nice light squared bishop here looking down at h7. You've got a knight ready to come in and join the fun. You've got options on maybe pushing the f pawn as well. So yeah, I just thought I would start this, you know, exploration into the French. Lots of kind of different attacking possibilities that I mean, like, you know, I used to play the French myself quite a lot. Yeah, I don't remember these lines. I don't remember having seen all of these ideas, certainly not being very comfortable with them. So I think your beginner and intermediate French player will struggle against this approach. So we're going to keep developing this. I'll probably make more videos on the Freddy anti-French, but this is just a little taster. Let me know what you guys think. Hope you approve. Thanks for watching. I'll see you soon.